My Huntington's disease story kind of begins with my nan. She literally just went to a routine GP appointment that happened to have another person there who knew about Huntington's disease, and the symptoms she was showing the doctor kind of gave her a bit of a nudge to say, I think she needs to be looked into in regards to having Huntington's disease. It came back to say that she has Huntington's disease and she's also symptomatic. That led then the family having discussions as to if they were then going to get tested themselves. Whilst that was all happening, I just found out I was pregnant with Kian. My dad decided that he wanted to get tested, he wanted to know. It wasn't until he kind of went through his own genetic journey that he kind of started to realise the implications and what this all meant to us. A few days after he found out he was positive, I gave birth to Kian. That was a really hard moment because it was that realisation of, oh my God, how the hell am I going to deal with this, and also carry on being a first-time mum and deal with all the emotions of that on top. And then I thought, oh my God, am I going to have a day where I've got my dad in a room, my son in a room, and they're both symptomatic. And it's hard enough trying to work out how to even be a mum, then to think one day you might also be a carer on top of it. I think I just shut off emotionally when I tried to cope with everything at that time. I almost didn't want people to know that I wasn't okay, because I also knew my mum was trying to deal with my dad's diagnosis. And if I let her know that I was scared, her whole world would start crumbling. I look back at photos where I'm with Kian and I think, I'm not there. I can see by my face I'm not there. And looking back at those photos, you realise that actually it took such a big, important part of my life away. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. There were some points that you just felt suicidal. You don't want to be there anymore. You just wanted to run away from it all. Every time I looked at Kian, I was finding it hard not to fall in love with him because I was just so scared that I was going to lose him.
Quick, because we won't be able to go to the park.
In November 2020, that's when I found out that I tested negative for Huntington's disease. I think a lot of people assume that in that moment you're going to feel amazing, you're going to want to go out straight away and celebrate, and the realisation is actually it only lasts for a few seconds. You realise that you're extremely lucky, you feel guilty because you're extremely lucky. I think in that moment, because I was able to look at Kian and say, you're not at risk anymore, that was a nice feeling to have, but to kind of know that my mum wouldn't be alone if in the future she had to care for my dad or care for my siblings. And then you just feel this overwhelming guilt that it's just not fair. You know, how are we going to feel if one of my brothers tests positive? How are we going to feel if dad, you know, starts to develop symptoms? How are we going to deal with it?
Let's go get it, go get it.
It does turn your world completely upside down and then back up again and back down again, because one person gets tested, that journey ends or that journey carries on, and then you move to the next person, that world gets turned upside down, and then the next person. I always describe that moment of Huntington's coming into our lives as that safety net breaking, and you're forever just trying to rebuild it, trying to get the threads, trying to get all the different just trying to make that safety net exactly the way it was before it happened, knowing full well there's never ever going to be like that again. It's a trauma that will never go away. It leaves its mark on you. And I say it's just a beautiful scar. That's the only way I can put it. It's just, that's what it is. Yeah. The only time that I started to cope was just talking about my story and just going online, but in a different way, not going online to symptom search, not going online to find real people with real stories. I think regardless of the result over time, you just suddenly realise that life is just passing you by. You're going to just be worrying all the time, are you actually going to live?
Apollo's tree to lead them into the new nest. While they worked, Lucas said,
What's important for me and the way that I like to talk about it is that positivity and knowing that your life isn't over. I always say to people, like, you are not your DNA, you are you.